This class is, I'm calling it Phrasing Flow. That's what I'm calling it. And it continues the broader theme of mobility and stability. And I would like us to explore today phrasing flow in a couple of different ways. With the notion of a phrase, you have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I'd like us to explore different movement, which I will guide as usual, where we initiate more from free flow. So coming into something already attempting to find and activate free flow. Then we might consider really activating or finding more free flow in the middle of a movement. And then we can also consider how we might end some movement or particular action with flow also. So we can either really consider the initiation with flow, the middle as flow with flow, and then the end of a movement with flow, which, as we've spoken about on other occasions, would probably go into passive wait. Because when you go into flow a lot and then you're slowing down, you're going to be stopping, that becomes a giving in to gravity and going from an active wait to a passive wait, or an experience of that. And so we'll work through some of the developmental patterns as a way of building some different kind of movement ideas. All right, so if you'd like to maybe start either rolling or standing, up to you, what you feel like today, or maybe sitting. Options of sitting, lying, standing, walking, and go ahead and move around your space. Mobilize, shift weight, make yourself arrive comfortably, generously into an awareness of how your body feels, any areas of particular activity or tension or numbness or over sensation, and begin to notice your breath. As you shift weight, where is the breath in your body? How is the breath in your body? Taking a couple of moments for whatever you feel like your body needs. Movements in the whole of your body, different parts. And as you move, noticing how the skull feels. I'll do a bit of a scan through body parts so you can maybe just check in a little bit with the skeletal architecture, the bones of your body. So the skull falling into spine, into pelvis. Playing a little bit with the relationship of the top of your head and the tailbone. Again, it could be sitting, lying, standing, rolling, whatever feels most useful, most comfortable. And you can change whenever you wish. Eyes can be open or closed. Moving easily. Researching, inquiring into these two ends of spine. And all the little possible micro movements in between. And noticing also how the face feels, the jaw, the tongue, the throat, the eyes. And so already coming into the inner space of the skull. This more fluid, soft tissue, reminding us that the spine is really more central in our bodies rather than behind us. And If you've been at the same orientation to gravity for a while, you might want to change that organization of where your spine is, maybe giving the whole of the torso more support on the floor, or propping up spine on hands and feet, or hands and shins rather. Or maybe spine is in a vertical alignment, or you might even be spine more upside down. Breathing into this weight shifting, flow sensing, breath sensing exploration. The movement possibilities between and because of head and tail. You might feel like movement is more simultaneous from both ends of the spine, or it might be more of a sequence through one end to the other end. We'll get a little bit more differentiated in a bit. But for now, we can consider spine whatever way we wish. And then finding your mind's eye tracing itself to your palms, maybe even seeing your palms, rubbing them together. You don't just have to imagine them in your mind's eye. You can look at your palms and then maybe trace with your hands a connection to the shoulder blade and to the breastbone. So we have this wing of the arm, this long fold of skin, this kind of envelope, pouring bones at the distal end of the hand right through to shoulder blade and to breastbone and on the other side. And then in your own way, again exploring the relationship of hand or palm to the shoulder blade. You might be in the air, as I'm showing here, with the different kind of mobilizations of where this limb of arm might go, or you might be on the floor, sliding the arm up, easing through the joints of the arm, even finding a reach of the hand across your midline, feeling the relationship of how, as you reach your arm across, breastbone might move a little bit, shoulder blade can move on the back. Up to you how you do this, how simple, how complex, but keep it mobile. No need to get stuck anywhere. And if it helps to keep finding sensation through touch, always feel free to remind yourself, remember where these bones are. We're finding a sense of ongoingness through these parts. And remembering the arm doesn't need to stay fully extended. Find some buoyancy, some fluidity at the elbow. Finding flexion through the joints, rotation through the whole joints. And maybe finding even the back space. Maybe even exploring each finger. And so this thing we think of as the palm is really a collection of bones, fluids. Okay, and then let's take our attention maybe with hands to pelvis, tracing heels, knees, tips of the sitting bones. We've orientated ourselves to head and tail, palms and shoulder blades, and now let's play a little bit with heels and sitting bones. So, or heels to pelvis, even. Let's make it more general, which could be heel towards sitting bone. It could be heel towards pubic symphysis. It could even be heel towards sacrum if I wanted. Playing with foot, not even heel, foot, bones of the feet and the toes, as well as the heel bone. And that relationship that I can draw, sequencing the distal end of the foot towards pelvis and away from pelvis. We have options working in the air, working on the floor, sliding the legs. And as you play, explore, mobilize, make sure that you're still finding some breath support with this. Seeing where feels like it can be even more fluid. A little shaking could be useful. And then maybe finding a very familiar heel rock to most of you. In Maya, I would suggest you maybe find a heel rock sitting rather than lying down. Finding the legs roughly in parallel. If you want to play with a wider position of the legs, you can. Classically, legs are in parallel, knees pointing up towards the ceiling. You can also explore bending through the knees, finding a rock through to skull that way, rather than with the legs fully extended the whole time. Whichever version you're doing, seeing if you can feel this sequencing, this fluidity through the body parts, from lower to upper, ankles, hips, spine, skull, even the shoulder blades and the breastbone. Even the hands know that the heels are rocking. Feel free to make any sighs or vocalizations whenever you'd like. And with this heel rock, let's explore what I was speaking about earlier with this idea of starting from flow. So you can take a little pause, inhale to prepare, fully exhale, and then right at the end of the exhale, finding heel rock from a sense of free flow already. Releasing into gravity at the end of the exhale to soften in to what that rock might be. And so yeah, give yourself another little pause, inhale again. And finding this initiation through a breath and a letting go into movement. And do that one more time, breathing in. Finding a moment of stillness, finding an exhale, releasing into flow. And then keep flowing with this heel rock and gradually start to make it more controlled. So finding more bound flow, a bit more control, a bit more tension. If you're new to what that term means, simply just holding your muscles more strongly. So doing heel rock, can you still rock, but finding a bit more flexion through the muscles, a sense of hugging muscles inwards to the bones, what movement is possible, and then let go. From the holding, keep going with the heel rock, releasing again into the flow. So inhibiting something and then letting it go, was that little exercise there. You can try it again if you wish. Putting the brakes on, but not quite. It's like you're still really trying to find a heel rock, but it's with a bit more resistance. It's a bit harder to move, a bit more tension going on, and then release again. And by doing that, you may even start to notice which areas of your body grip first, the areas that really like to help. And seeing if when you let go, you can release those a little bit more. And see if you can activate a heel rock with as minimal effort possible. And finding the muscles closer to the bones to do that. And you don't need to make that happen, but you can make a bit of letting go happen to help. And then let's find a pause and we'll slow it down, finding a stop that's not an abrupt stillness through bound flow. Let's find it releasing gradually. Letting go and letting go and letting go through passive weight, or a freeing up of the flow to release into gravity. And do that again. You can start again. Now paying attention to resolving this movement phrase, this ongoing heel rock through flow itself. And it happened to me then that I exhaled, I sighed, and that might help. Also finding a little bit more free flow. And you can find an ending again a few times for yourself. Noticing how easy or hard it is to let go in the movement, putting the brakes on of the movement, but without these being really quick breaks. Maybe they're slower. Or maybe it's just a real stop. Okay. So there's a few little microscopic explorations of moving, initiating from flow, finding flow more in the middle with a bit of constriction either side, and then ending with flow. I'd like us to play a little bit now with knee drop and arm circle, and see how we can kind of apply this idea of free flow and the phrasing of flow within that. So let's find ourselves in the supine hook position. And let's do one knee and the other knee, and the head can turn in the opposite direction. The arms can be quite high. And then one knee starts and the pelvis comes back, and then the other knee. One knee can fall, pelvis, and then the other leg. So getting this pattern for yourself going, we're setting up a cross-lateral connection from lower to upper through the spine. Feet stay roughly where they are, one edge becoming the base of support and the inside edge of the other foot becoming the base of support. Rolling across the soles of the feet a little. Skull and back of pelvis, finding a relationship also in this. And you might find if you're doing it over and over that the head already starts to go in the opposite direction as the knees go. So when I started, I was really concentrating on sequencing from my feet through to my spine. And then as I did it over and over and over again, excuse me, I found that my knees and my head and my pelvis were all joining in at the same time. Up to you what you want to do or what you find happening. The thing to look for now is where can you let go a little bit into more flow without going into passive weight in this movement. I'm curious for myself, let's say with the starting, of really allowing this right hip to soften and open, and then my other side of pelvis to come with it. And there's a certain amount of weight sensing of the weight of my leg with this ongoingness. So I can use gravity pouring into my foot to ease pelvis across. So there is a letting go through the muscles, but then an active freeing around my hip socket. I wonder what that difference is for you about really letting go into gravity, which might feel more like passive weight, but then finding free flow as this progression of this limb mobilizing the pelvis to meet the other side of the leg, or the other leg rather, and then to come back. Sole of foot finds the floor, pelvis joins in, other leg joins in. And you might want a little pause in the middle to find a bit more heel, sitting bone relationship. And then the weight of the leg, pelvis and thigh. And check what's going on with breath here. And you might, when you take in this diagonal knee reach, take a little pause in order to find another beginning, another initiation with flow. And you might slow it down a little bit. Give yourself the preparation of the inhale. And this easy exchange with the position in rotation, de-rotating through spine into skull. Okay, and when you feel like that's a bit clearer, let's find with two knees. And as you bring the knees back up again, now it's slightly more heavy. Yeah, you've got two weights of legs to bring back. So now finding a free flow with a bit more pelvic floor action to bring pelvis down, center of the pelvis to the ground. And let's find really in the middle of the phrase, so from knees going all the way to finding this diagonal knee reach. Can you increase the flow on the way there? So you're already pretty fluid, and then can it feel like it just keeps going through into the skull? And then bringing the pelvis back, really sequencing through the bones rather than feeling like you have to control things to get there. And as I'm saying it, you hear in my voice, there is some sense of spatial pull going on. And at the moment, I'm finding more of a sense of into the ground, downwards, towards the back of my head, towards my feet, towards my pelvis. And then the next time you bring your knees to the center, take a little pause, take a little shake. And let's activate through the arms now. So you may have noticed that I didn't really explore the emphasizing the end of the phrase with flow, but we'll do that a little bit more now with the arms. So first of all, swiping the shoulder blade up and down, wiping the arm on the floor. Arm can be more passive, finding this mobility through the shoulder blade that we found before. Now more in contact with the ground, but with an ongoingness up and down. And then let's find knees going, same arm, knees go over to the left. Seeing that right arm, and taking some arm circles and really now making it very floppy with the arm. So I'm active through my shoulder blade, but the rest of my arm is very passive. So it's gonna kind of hit me in the face and then knock onto the ground. It's a bit painful, and you're gonna need to use a little bit of control to stop your knuckles hurting. And then going the other way. So it's a bit like your arm is really only controlled from the shoulder blade. Okay, and now let's re-find a sense of form of that limb. So it has a little bit more activation through to the fingertips. And that was the full passive, well, almost passive weight of the arm. Can you find now a sense of free flow through your limb that's on its way to becoming passive? And it might become passive as you slide it on the floor, but then as your arm rotates across you, a little bit more sensation, form, fluidity through your arm into your hands. As your arm comes across your face, breastbone can soften, rib cage eases across a little bit. And now we're no longer thinking of just the arm moving, but the whole upper portion. Skull is turning, breastbone is softening, rib cage is rolling. You can find a little bit more participation with a sense of the kind of upper body, or at least the right upper on this side. You can change the direction when you like. How can this arm circle be very fluid? And especially the opening when you're finding the arm across your face, allowing the shoulder blade to move up. No need to kind of hug it on the back here. You can allow your shoulder blade to move up, reaching the palm away. Make sure the back of the hand can slide on the floor. And if the arm doesn't reach there, fingertips might find the ground as well, or instead, well. Couple more arm circles with a sense of fluidity the whole way around. Hand leading ahead a little bit. And then release that arm onto the ground, bring the knees back to the center. Just compare any sensation between your right and your left arm, and we'll do the other side. I promise we will come out of the floor soon. But let's carry on with the other arm. So a little bit of swiping first to feel this passive weight of the arm. And then you can start circling, well, it's very quick, circling your arm just from the shoulder blade, finding the weight of the arm with more passive weight initiated from the shoulder blade. And you might find that one arm feels different to the other, which is quite normal. You might feel like there's more movement available through the shoulder blade or with the rib cage to roll. And you can also find the other direction. And then we can find more form of the arm, more active presence through the fingertips. Sense of carving the arm over. Ongoingness through your whole arm. It doesn't need to be stiff and held. But a sense of the bones traveling. The fluidity from breastbone into hand, hand into breastbone, giving you a bit of space for the rib cage and the skull to join in. And finding some breath support, changing direction of the arm when you wish, rolling onto the other shoulder. So you have this sense of one shoulder girdle is coming off the ground and you're rolling slightly onto the other side. Pelvis is heavy, knees staying fairly passive. Okay. Enough of that, bringing the knees back into the center. Just checking in with the sensation of both arms now, and then let's re-find both knees falling and noticing the end of the knee drop or the knee reach into the shoulder blade. Can you feel that sense of a connection now through that limb to the hand? Knees go, pelvis goes, this fluidity through the spine, into the shoulder blade, into the hand. You may even want to take your hands a little bit, arms a little bit lower, and then activate more of the diagonal line of the arm. The kind of reach to the opposite diagonal. You can over-exaggerate that spatial pull if you like. only if it feels okay in your lower back and you're not going into some sort of very dramatic hyperextension and reach through the arm. So trying to keep lower body and lower spine rotating but not arching. And seeing what you can feel now in the connection of the lower into the upper, because of mobilizing through shoulder gird a little bit. Okay. Pause, push yourself to one side, come up to sit. So let's do a little, so we've just been doing a nice like cross-lateral thing. Knee drop, beginning of arm circle and arm circle with this phrasing of flow, and I'd like us to maybe go back a few developmental steps to find upper and lower. So let's go lower leads, upper follows, and we're sitting. Upper leads, lower follows, upper leads. What am I saying? Basically shifting from one side to the other side, lower leading, upper following. Yeah, that's what we'll do. Lower leads, upper follows. Lower leads, upper follows. Lower leads, upper follows. Now, if that amount of rotation is really impossible because of where your body's at right now, you might be already going into the body half version of this. So you might be going left side leading, right side takes over, right side leading. Or you might take your legs wide and do it legs wide. So have a play of making this either the body half version, so you're really preparing one whole side, and then the other side is following. Or you're going knees together, shoulder comes around, knees and pelvis together, head and arms come around, knees together, head and arms, eyes. Okay, and then we can make this a little bit, with a little bit more variation. We can go upper leads, lower follows, lower lead, upper follows. Now I'll give you another version, Maya. So we're going to go upper lead, lower follows, and upper follows. So finding a way of rolling to my front surface, and then my lower body takes over, and then my upper body comes back with me. I'm bringing my legs to a kind of bent underneath me position. If you wanted to, they could both be long. Yeah, you could come more bent, more long, and both being bent if you wanted. I'm sort of used to this fourth position, let's say, how do we call it? It's not quite a fourth position, kind of this position, because it's more comfortable for me to have my lower leg bent in, but you don't have to. You can have both knees bent up like that. Can you now find this with our exploration of flow? So starting with a lot of flow. We're paying attention to the middle of the movement with a lot of flow. So maybe adding extra exhalation in the middle. Can you find even the ending? Finding a fluid ending rather than bracing yourself. And at the moment, I'm sometimes finding myself falling into the next one immediately. But if we're going to focus on the ending in flow, finding a moment of stillness, and then initiating again. And remembering upper-lower connectivity has the underlying support of head-tail, so your eyes are part of this experience of seeing where you're going. And if you're playing around with the body half version, you might not want to go all the way onto the floor. You might come to one side and then to the other side. And if you are going all the way to the floor with the body half version, one side leads, pushing yourself up to the other side. Yeah, you really need to, if you're doing the body half version, don't forget your leg in that sense of then finding right side of pelvis and right shoulder blade all the way onto the floor. Back up again, you might find the arm sliding. You might find the arm bending a little bit more. We're making a version of this that makes sense for you to play with fluidity. And you might find with the upper-lower version that your lower body might lead first and then your upper body joins. Or you could start from the upper body and feel how it travels into the lower body. So there's a difference there of starting this initiation of flow through the knees, dropping, taking you into a roll. Or starting with the hands and the head and the eyes and this whole upper portion of the spine that you were exploring through arm circle. Going up to you, where you want to start. And on that version, I left my head behind, but try if you can to see where you're going. So head and arm, hands and eyes working together. And then pause whenever you need, take a little recuperation. Or keep going. Well, yeah, looks like it's working. So we have a few variations. Body half version, right, left, and upper lower version with upper leading or lower following. And don't forget your eyes, don't forget your head. So finding this underlying spinal support, spinal rotation supporting this upper lower roll. And if it feels like it's not working in some way, ask yourself, where could I add more fluidity? Is it the initiation? Is it the middle of the movement? Or is it finding the ending somehow? And if lower leading, then maybe head is left behind because the pelvis is starting and hands are going. And you might find yourself landing on the ground and feeling like you want to stay there for a bit and not wanting to come up. Or you might find yourself rolling and finding even the pelvis coming off the ground. Or the feet finding the ground. Or one knee coming around. So we have this little template of weight shifting either side, or upper lower into the ground. And begin for yourself to add variation of level change. And using all the things that you've been finding so far so it can feel fluid. And you can reverse, you can just do a little bit and then retrograde and reverse where you came from. That might be enough, it might be interesting to stay there. Because you end up with a little phrase that you can then investigate with, okay, can I initiate by softening through my joints? Or can I find some free flow really in the middle of the movement? And it might not be quick, it might be slow. Or you might investigate how the movement resolves before you initiate again. And the initiation might be more of a bodily based part of the body thing. We were playing with hands to shoulder blades, head and tail, head and pelvis, feet to pelvis. So up to you, how you want to explore a little bit of rolling to find level change. Phrasing this fluidity however you wish. And it might take you in some unexpected journeys across the floor. Maybe you find more low to the ground rolling. Maybe there's some rolling that brings you onto different bases of support where your head starts to find that vertical reach, the pelvis starts to come up. And then if you like, you can take it into a stroll in the space or walk in the room and see how you might get back down into the floor, thinking through this developmental pattern support that you were finding on the ground. So you might go head leads and hands reach you into the ground, and then the tailbone and the feet take over. I'll do that one again. Hands and head leading, feet and pelvis following. Or you might find body half into the floor, condensing the side space of the body, head and tail, finding a relationship of softening sideways back into this little thing. You might find yourself coming more into a knee drop. Ooh, where do I go if my knees take that pattern if I'm standing? Knee drop, hand finds the ground. Then where can I go? I can take my tail down. If I take a step and find knee drop in standing, hand to the ground, and maybe where can I go? And maybe I take knee drop and arm circle in the space around me. You can find a little bit more of the possibility of the fluid arms again. So if it's feeling available to take yourself in and out of the ground a little bit, go ahead and do that. You might bring yourself up to standing and back into the ground from walking. And if you're finding standing and walking, checking in with the whole of your body, finding that sense of head, tail, hands and feet where we started. And occasionally giving yourself moments of stillness to end with fluidity, to then reinitiate through that flow. Connecting through your different body parts. And if you'd like to return to something we did earlier, you can always re-find heel rock. See how that feels now. Re-find knee drop with both knees or with separate legs. Or you might want to add the arm circle, knee drop and arm circle. And if you go back to these patterns, you can feel the underlying support of these connections we've been speaking about. head, tail in our arm circle. Maybe even the head can come off the ground. Doesn't have to. Lower body leading, upper body following. And then if you take your arm circle all the way over, which is what we've been doing, and just rolling on the ground, it suddenly becomes a body half. So maybe you find a moment of cross-lateral into that experience of body half. And we're finding these changes between the connections through our flow. So what we've been finding of lower leading, upper following, to take us to roll, is simply adding more flow and more direction. Hands and head. Spine leading, tail going. Bringing the skull with us. So you can slow it down if you wish to sense into how these patterns overlap. What was I doing there? It was kind of like a body half into the ground. You can play around with things however you wish. Remembering foot-pelvis relationship. That might take you somewhere new. And then you can leave these patterns and go into your own walking, whatever movement you would like. It might be walking, it might be something on the ground. And now let's reinvestigate, starting from flow, finding flow in the middle and ending in flow. Doesn't matter what you're doing. It might be improvisation, something where the movement just can unfold. There might be various patterns now in your body that are like, oh, can't get away from you, I want to do something else. Or if you're not sure what you'd like to do, you're welcome to find X's and O's, this classic core distal pattern. And you might find it really paying attention to the fluidity throughout, or starting from this flow. Or maybe ending the expanding or contracting. Paying attention to the free flow of your movement and not the passive wave. So especially when you expand. But if you're not doing X's and O's and you're doing some free movement, also fine. So initiating from flow. Or whatever you're doing, finding free flow somehow in the middle of it. Or finding how you end through freeing flow into passive weight. And you might have some feelings about this, or some images and associations. You can allow yourself to indulge in those images a little bit. or indulge in the feeling of what that is. Excuse me. Taking one more minute, if there's something you haven't tried yet that you would like to try, go ahead and explore that. And then let's find heel rock, either in sitting or in lying. And let's find an end of heel rock through slowing down, and then a very nice, easy exhale. Noticing your body, where it is on the floor, how it is on the floor, and the sensations. Noticing which parts of your body maybe feel more alive or different to how you started. And gradually rolling your way over to the computer, and let's have a little chat.